Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Great America Show. It's great to have you with us on this beautiful day in America. Thanks so much for spending part of your day, your evening with us. We truly always appreciate each and every single one of you guys joining us. We got an action-packed show lined up for you guys tonight. In just a few moments, we're going to be joined by Roger Stone, the great Roger Stone. So much to talk about. Congress, President Trump, all the good stuff. We're going to take it up with Roger in just a few moments. But first, I want to get to some news of the day and some news of the week. Marjorie Taylor Greene's surprise departure from Congress could prove that there may be an inception and inflection point happening right now in Congress. Punchbowl News is reporting that several GOP lawmakers told Punchbowl News that they too are considering retiring before their term ends. Quote, more explosive early resignations are coming. This is one unnamed senior House Republican telling the outlet, quote, it's a tinderbox. Morale has never been lower. Now, according to this congressperson, members are eyeing the exits because of ongoing tensions, they say, with the White House. They're saying Mike Johnson has done nothing to remedy those tensions. They're saying, quote, the entire White House team has treated all members like garbage, and Mike Johnson has let it happen because this is what he wanted to happen. That is the sentiment of nearly all appropriators, authorizers, hawks, doves, rank and file. The arrogance of the White House team is off-putting to members who run roughshod and threaded, the unnamed Republican added. They don't even allow little wins like announcing small grants or even responding from agencies. Not even the high-profile, regular ranking file random members are more upset than ever. Members know they're going into the minority after the midterms. Now, this is, of course, on anonymity, but the Punchbowl News, they do lean left, but Sherman over there does a pretty good job of reporting. Like I said, you're not going to really get a right-leaning reporter to report, but he does a pretty good job. So, unverified reports, but nonetheless, they're saying a purge is happening. Now, we've been talking about the midterm elections here, and if the Republicans stay down this path that they're on right now of America Last, they could kiss the midterms goodbye and, go right to Trump impeachment, because that's exactly what's going to happen. Make no mistake. As soon as they lose those midterms, impeachment is coming the next day. So we hope and pray, President Trump takes this seriously and Mike Johnson takes this seriously. But I'm not entirely sure Mike Johnson even cares about having the House. The man seems like he's taken on so much stress that he just doesn't care anymore. And that's not the kind of leader that we need running Congress. So they've got to get their act together, folks. They've got to push forward. And I say this every day, and I sound like a broken record, but it seems nothing is changing. They've got to get the America First economic agenda in front of the American people and put all of this nonsense and bullshit behind us. The Epstein files are out. They're getting released. Okay, let's put it behind us now. When the time comes to investigate what needs to be investigated, we'll bring it back up. But they need to move forward with the plan that the American people voted for in November last year. Because without that, like I say, you can kiss the midterms goodbye. You can't, as a congressman, as a senator, go out to your constituents and tell them to vote for you when you've done absolutely nothing for them. You had the big, beautiful bill, and we haven't had anything since then. It's been Ukraine, it's been Gaza, it's been Russia, it's been Iran. How about America? The country that we all live in, country that's in enormous amounts of debts, over $30 trillion in debts. How about we start focusing on our own country? Because that's what the voters wanted, folks. Now, going back to that purge happening in Congress, Rhino Congressman Don Bacon, who's been a thorn in the side of President Trump, has admitted that he almost resigned from Congress in protest of President Trump's Ukraine peace plan. Imagine that, resigning over another country's issues. Sounds like America First to me, Don Bacon, huh? Last week, the White House unveiled the 28-point peace plan that would provide Ukraine with long-term security guarantees, access to European markets, and reconstruction funds. Meanwhile, the agreement would enshrine some of Russia's territorial gains and guarantee that Ukraine never joins NATO, as well as capping the size of its military to 600,000. Now, speaking with Axios, Bacon said that he was appalled by the proposal and had seriously considered giving up politics altogether. Quote, I was so angry at the Trump administration's proposed 28-point Russia plan last week that I thought about resigning early. Now, Axios calls him a centrist foreign policy hawk and a staunch supporter of Ukraine. He's already announced his plans to retire at the end of 2027 rather than seek another term. I mean, this is the members of Congress, folks, that need to get off and go into the sunset and finally retire. He was going to resign over President Trump's plan to end the war in Russia and Gaza. He's crying about that. This is what we're dealt with now, folks. This is what we're dealt with now. There's crime running rampant across this country. In states like Chicago, cities like Chicago, I should say, states like Illinois. I know the difference, I promise. And their governors want nothing to do with it. They don't want to fix the crime. President Trump has tried to send the National Guard, and they push back, and the judges and this and that. And just yesterday, we watched another woman burned on a train, lit up on fire, alive, in America. President Trump addressed it earlier today.
You saw all the crime that took place last night, the night before. The woman with the burning, they burned the woman. To be talking about that now, they burned this beautiful woman riding in a train. A man was arrested 72 times. 72 times, think of that. And they'll let him out again. The liberal judges will let him out again. But we're ready to go. You know, we've been moving toward Chicago. We have a governor that thinks it's wonderful that only like 7 people were killed this week. But we are moving toward doing, and we're going to, if crime gets, it's horrible what's happening in Chicago. We could make Chicago a safe city in a period of 4 weeks. In a period of 8 weeks, 9 weeks, 10 weeks, it would be totally safe. And the people of Chicago want us to go there. And if you look at the crime that's taken place in Chicago in the last 2 weeks, just take a look. It's on the front page of every newspaper. It's out of control. The mayor is incompetent, and the governor is a big fat slob. He ought to invite us in, say, please make Chicago safe. We're going to lose a great city if we don't do it quickly. Make Chicago. We'll do the same thing as we did in D.C., the same thing as we did everywhere we've gone.
And that girl who was set ablaze, 26-year-old Bethany McGee, thankful for some good Samaritans who were nearby. She got off the train and collapsed, and people helped her. She's now in critical condition. I mean, it's just a shame that this is what we're dealing with in here in America. The governors hate President Trump. The mayors hate President Trump so much that this man, 22 prior arrests since 2016, 53 criminal cases in Cook County dating back to 1993. 9 of them were felonies for which he pled guilty to. You know how many times he served time in jail? Just twice. Just 2.5 years behind bars in total. This is under J.B. Pritzker, who, as you heard President Trump there, did not have nice things to say. A man who's ruining that state and a mayor that's ruining that city. In America, we're witnessing this. It's a damn shame, folks. It's a damn shame. And I hope President Trump sends in not the National Guard, the active military to those people, because this is what the Democrats have put us into. Now, it's some lighter news before Roger joins us. President Trump today issuing his the president's annual pardoning of the turkey. Take a listen to President Trump jabbing some fun. Pardon was signed, but it wasn't with an auto pen.
Before going any further, I want to make an important announcement, because you remember last year, after a thorough and very rigorous investigation by Pam Bondi and all of the people at Department of Justice, the FBI, the CIA, the White House Counsel's Office, and the Department of Everything. We have a Department of Everything. You know what that is? I think that's called the White House. Into a terrible situation caused by a man named Sleepy Joe Biden. He used an auto pen last year for the turkey's pardon. So I have the official duty to determine, and I have determined that last year's turkey pardons are totally invalid, as are the pardons of about every other person that was pardoned other than, where's Hunter? No, Hunter's was good. That was the one pardon, Pam, that was good, right? The rest of them are all invalid. I don't know what the hell you're going to do about that, but now we're going to take a little of the joking. That is a mess. But they're hereby null and void. The turkeys known as Peach and Blossom last year have been located, and they were on their way to be processed. In other words, to be killed. But I have stopped that journey, and I am officially pardoning them. And they will not be served for Thanksgiving dinner. We saved them in the nick of time. This one has plenty of time, but they were saved in the nick of time.
President Trump poking some fun, obviously, at Joe Biden and his little auto pen issue that he's got them going on. Now, there's two turkeys. There's one that gets pardoned. I think there's an alternate. President Trump had two nicknames for them, but then he withdrew them. Take a listen.
The turkeys being pardoned today go by the names of Gobble and Waddle. When I first saw their pictures, I thought we should send them, I shouldn't say this. I was going to call them Chuck and Nancy. But then I realized I wouldn't be pardoning them. I would never pardon those two people. I wouldn't pardon them. I wouldn't care what Melania told me. Darling, I think it would be a nice thing to do. I won't do it, darling.
Wow, President Trump is just revealing that he listens to his wife. I think it'd probably be the only person President Trump actually listens to. I'm just kidding, but poking some fun at these people. He says these are Maha turkeys, whatever that means. RFK certified them. Maha. Take a listen.
These are two of the largest turkeys ever presented to an American president, over 50 pounds each. It's the largest we've ever had. And those are big turkeys. Are they as good as the normal-sized turkey? Better or as good? Do they tend to be a little fatty, maybe? No, he said no. He knows the turkey business. Anyway, despite their size, Secretary Kennedy has formally certified that these are the first ever Maha turkeys. I don't know if I agree with that. These are Maha. In other words, they could be fat, but they're still Maha. They've been fattened on a steady diet of grass, beef, to allow the smoothies and all of the other things that they've been eating for this occasion. This was a really big occasion, but they've eaten every fattening food that you can eat. We wanted to really make them special, and they really are. They're like record-setting. I've never seen a turkey that big before.
And there you have it. President Trump doing his, as I said, his normal Thanksgiving pardoning, as they do each and every year before Thanksgiving. Folks, if you're joining us on Rumble or YouTube, please be sure to hit that like, subscribe, and follow button. Give us a thumbs up. Let us know where you're tuned in from. We want to know. We want to give you guys shout outs and all that good stuff. If you're joining us on audio, our OG audience, please be sure to hit that 5-star on Apple or iHeart or Spotify, wherever you guys are tuned in, and leave us a comment and let us know how much you love the show or how much you don't hate the show. We truly appreciate it. But YouTube and Rumble, if you guys could, please hit that thumbs up, like, and subscribe, and follow. Turn those notifications on so you know every single time we're live. Folks, we're going to take a quick break here. We're going to be back in less than 60 seconds, I promise. And we're going to be joined by my pal, good friend, Roger Stone. So much to talk about today in so little time. We're coming right back, folks. Don't turn that knob. Back in 60.
I'm excited to announce that we're having a huge sale on overstock and brand new products. For example, MyPillow Percale bed sheets, every color, every style, every size, only $29.88. Our Percale bed sheets are breathable, cool and crisp, and they're perfect for spring and summer. And check out Rev 7, the next generation of energy drinks. It tastes great, and it gives you energy all day with no jitters and no crashes. Best of all, it's actually good for you. And for a limited time, try our 3-pack absolutely free. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save 20% on our Rev 7 12-packs, or try our introductory 3-pack absolutely free. And our Percale bed sheets, all sizes, only $29.88. Twin size, full size, queen size, king sizes, all $29.88. Inventory is extremely limited at this price, so order now.
Thanks, everybody, for staying with us. As promised, now the great, inimitable Roger Stone. Roger, let's start with first. Marjorie Taylor Greene departs Congress. We're now hearing that there's some members of Congress who may leave early, which is obviously an FU to Mike Johnson and President Trump. They'll be stabbing him in the back because ostensibly you turn power over to the Democrats with such a slim majority. Are you hearing anything about this? Can we expect this? What do we do?
I must say I have not heard this, but they've tried this before. I've talked about it prior to the last elections, where they offer these huge corporate jobs to House Republicans in order to induce them to resign. But they do it in such a way that the deadline is passed for a special election, so that the seat just remains vacant until the next regular election, which of course would bring down the Republican majority. Now, there's a bunch of Republicans in the House who I really do hope retire because they're Republicans in name only. They have no fight. They're not interested in holding the Biden crime family to justice. They're not interested in investigating the January 6th committee hoax. They're not interested in examining any of the more important questions about weaponization of our criminal justice system. And frankly, I hope many of them leave, but at least leave in a time frame in which they can have a Republican primary, where in a primary, a pro-Trump, pro-America first, real conservative Republican can win. And I think that's what needs to happen.
It kills me to think that there's so many people, Roger, who are like, they get brainwashed thinking like Thomas Massie is the most conservative member in Congress. He's the greatest member. Marjorie Taylor Greene was the greatest thing since sliced bread. And you think to yourself, like, this woman was hated for years by everybody, by the right and by the left, because of her lunacy and some of the things that she's done. The Jewish space lasers was one of the things. I mean, they annihilate her on The View. They go after her on this show. And now all these people are embracing her. And everyone's like, well, we told you so. She's great MAGA. Since when do we look to Jimmy Kimmel and Whoopi Goldberg and Joy Behar to see the token of people who are good?
Yeah, I mean, it's very interesting, but I think we both understand what this is just another manifestation of Trump derangement syndrome.
Yeah.
So if you want to be embraced by the radical left or by the distortionist scumbags at the New York Times or the Washington Post or NBC or ABC, people who are not in any way journalists, let me name a name, for example, Ken Delanian. I've had it up to here with this guy. I mean, this guy was fired from the LA Times because he's a CIA asset. He was fired for clearing his columns with the agency in Langley. So when you see this little douchebag on social media, he's not a reporter. He's not a journalist. He's a Democrat mouthpiece. Just block him or mute him because there's nothing there worth reading. He's also, about 5'6". But the point here, of course, is that anytime someone criticizes Donald Trump, no matter who they are, Dick Cheney, for example. Now, let's be very clear. Dick Cheney passed away recently, and where he is right now, he's very, very warm, in my opinion. Dick Cheney lied this country into war. He lied knowingly. He claimed, and he got Colin Powell to ruin his career by claiming that Iraq had weapons of mass destruction. They didn't. By claiming that Iraq had yellow cake uranium in order to manufacture weapons of mass destruction. They didn't. By claiming that Iraq was somehow involved in the 9/11 attack on America. They weren't. And why did he do this? Well, he was, before being vice president, he was the head of a company called Halliburton. Yep. His Halliburton stock was put into a blind trust. But if you know it's in the blind trust, how blind can the trust be? And Halliburton and Dick Cheney made millions and millions and millions and millions, if not billions, of dollars. And he's directly responsible for the death of thousands of American servicemen and hundreds of thousands of Iraqis. Now, the media hated Dick Cheney for good reason. And he was Darth Vader. I mean, this is a guy who was appointed to the committee, head the committee to search for a vice presidential running mate for George W. Bush, IQ 79. And who does he pick? He picks himself. He systematically destroys all the better candidates and he picks himself. This guy is the greatest single criminal and maybe mass murderer, one of the largest mass murders in American history. And the media hated him.
Yep.
They attacked him relentlessly until he and his daughter turned against Donald Trump. Now we hold him up like he's some great hero. No, he was a villain. He was the epitome of the swamp. And he started a war to line his own pockets. He killed thousands of people in order to line his own pockets. It's just the latest example of this phenomenon that you talk about, John.
Let's talk about, speaking of these people who were turned, Mark Kelly, who's a retired captain from the U.S. Navy, who's one of these 6 people who came out in this video that we're going to go against President Trump and do a little thing called sedition. And then they try to turn the tables on Trump like Trump's the one who's done something wrong. I look at this, Roger, the same way I look at it. Now, some people, some political strategists will tell you, you can never touch these people because they were in war, they're war heroes, or they're this and that. And I say the same thing. You have to distinguish the difference between your military career and your political career. You cannot intertwine the two. It was the same thing with John McCain. Yes, John McCain served this country honorably. Was John McCain a good politician? No, he was a terrible, terrible person when it came to politics. You have to distinguish the two, which people are terrified to do. But now we have this same situation with Mark Kelly, that he's this hero all of a sudden, but the guy's a scumbag.
Yeah, no, I mean, I had my own run-in with him. And it's kind of like history repeating himself. So
from Arizona,
Mark Kelly, but the U.S. Senate seat, that's just his part-time side job. He is in business with a Chinese communist company that makes surveillance balloons like the one that Joe Biden let float all over the country. When I raised the question, I thought that this was treasonous. This is very important. I said that he should be charged with treason. He should be tried. And if convicted, that the penalty for treason was capital punishment. Mm-hmm. What did the left say? Roger Stone says that Senator Mark Kelly should be executed for his criticism of Donald Trump. That's not what I said. Go back and look what I said. Now they're saying the same thing about Donald Trump. So what Mark Kelly and all these other deep state assets said in this video, where they said members of the military should ignore orders from the commander-in-chief when those orders are illegal or unconstitutional. Not one of those people, including this douchebag Mark Kelly, can point to any order by President Donald Trump that is either illegal or unconstitutional. And when the president said this is seditious, urging members of the military to ignore orders for the chain of command from the commander-in-chief, that is sedition. That is, I'm sorry, Judge Napolitan, I know you're wrong. That is indeed seditious, which I do think he could be court-martialed for. But when Trump points out that the penalty for treason is capital punishment, that's just a matter of written law. That's not something he's making up. So they're trying to make Trump the bad guy when Kelly, who, by the way, got to the Senate because sadly his wife was a victim in an attempted assassination, and because he's used his military career as somehow a qualification. I'd like to explain to him why he was in bed with the communist Chinese company making surveillance balloons. Explain that to us.
I hear every day about the products you all wish MyPillow carried. Well, guess what? We probably do. Slippers, bathrobes, pet beds, blankets, mattresses, sleepwear, loungewear, duvets, comforters, pot holders, aprons, oven mitts, and so much more. And they're all on sale. For example, get our best-selling standard MyPillows for only $14.98. Body pillows, $29.98. 6-piece bath towels or kitchen towel sets, just $29.98. Multi-use MyPillow 2.0s with pillowcase, $9.98. Save $40 on our Spring Percale and Giza Dream bedsheet sets. Any size, any color, and so much more. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save up to 80% on all MyPillow products. And I've never done this before. When you spend $100 or more, you're going to get 2 standard MyPillows absolutely free.
Roger, let's turn to another issue, and it's that case down in the Eastern District of Virginia that has now been thrown out against Big Tish James and James Comey. and the issues there that reportedly Ed Martin and Lindsay Halligan are being investigated by Todd Blanche. What can you tell us about what's going on down there, and is that investigation really happening, and for what?
There's a couple things at play here. First of all, I want to point out that the similars and the differences between the case against Comey and the case against me. We're both charged with the exact same crime, lying to Congress under oath. The difference was no misstatement I made was material. No misstatement I made was willful. No misstatement I made covered up any underlying crime because, as we now know, there was no Russian collusion. There was no WikiLeaks collaboration. There was no other crime. How come the FBI storms my home at 6 o'clock in the morning with a CNN camera to arrest me, but that James Comey's allowed to leisurely turn himself in 10 days after they announce his indictment? Why did the judge gag me? So I wasn't allowed to defend myself on shows like this, on cable, on radio, on TV, on social media. I'm not even allowed to talk about my case publicly. There was no gag on James Comey. How come? Comey's lawyers argue that he was selectively prosecuted, the target of political targeting and weaponization. My lawyers were specifically prohibited from arguing that in my case. Why are there different rules for him? Now let's get to the legality of the prosecutor. The ruling by the Clinton hack judge that Lindsay Halligan's appointment is illegal is just legally and constitutionally wrong. It's false. David Schoen, you should get this video, tore this apart last night with Laura Ingraham. Schoen is probably the smartest lawyer in the country. So the judge issued a political ruling. As far as Judge Cameron McGowan Curry's concerned, the Constitution doesn't matter, the law doesn't matter, the facts don't matter, the rules don't matter. They just do whatever they want. But speaking of illegal prosecutors, in my case, I was charged by Robert Mueller. But guess what? Robert Mueller's appointment was unconstitutional. How do I know that? Well, because Jack Smith's appointment was unconstitutional. And the fact pattern is identical. Neither one of them ever confirmed by the U.S. Senate. No law in place creating the position to which they were appointed, and no budgeting for their prosecutions, their witch hunts. So just as Judge Cannon in Florida correctly found that Jack Smith's appointment was unconstitutional, the appointment of Robert Mueller was equally constitutional. I know that the D.C. Appeals Court, which is really just a Democrat club, ruled incorrectly on that. And of course, I ran out of time to get it to the Supreme Court. But I'd like to see that case get to the Supreme Court, because if it were true, and I believe it is true, then my conviction would be extinguished, would be overturned. So this is outrageous. I should also say that the president's appointment of Lindsay Halligan was brilliant. Here's why. Eric Siebert, who was the U.S. attorney, who Glenn Youngkin, the guy who made all of his money in China, that Glenn Youngkin, governor of Virginia, former governor of Virginia, recommended Eric Siebert. But Eric Siebert, who was the U.S. attorney appointed by Donald Trump, but approved by Senators Warner and Kaine, that's how you know immediately he's a bad guy, and subsequently put into his position not by the U.S. Senate, but by the federal judges sitting in that district after 120 days. He never disclosed to anyone that he had a conflict of interest in the Comey case. He never disclosed that his father-in-law, his wife's father, was the godfather to James Comey's daughter. He also never disclosed that his father-in-law had represented James Comey as a private attorney. He should have recused himself from the beginning. There is a bar complaint that will be filed in Virginia. This guy needs to lose his law license. He had an obligation to disclose that and recuse himself, and he didn't. He was quietly preparing a 51-page brief in which he was arguing that James Comey should not be prosecuted. Yeah. So in other words, ignore the evidence and just put forward a political decision to give your buddy, your wife's father-in-law's best friend, a pass. And Donald Trump caught them, and he basically fired him. I mean, technically, Siebert resigned, but he resigned 2 steps ahead of being canned, and he appointed Lindsay Halligan. Now, the media, I think largely because she's very attractive, keeps trying to denigrate her as a beauty queen or just an insurance lawyer. her academic credentials are extraordinary. She graduated summa cum laude. She got out of law school and got her degree early. She's brilliant as a lawyer, but she got no backup from the U.S. Justice Department. She got no backup from those running the Justice Department here. So she went ahead and took all of the evidence to a grand jury, and a grand jury of Letitia James' peers, a grand jury of James Comey's peers, they found a probable cause for a crime and they indicted. So if there was no crime here, as both of the defendants tried to argue, why did the grand jury see it otherwise? So I think that she's a hero. I think she's valiant. I think her appointment was valid. In the case of Comey, we both understand that trying to run out the clock, and it may be difficult for them to re-indict him based on the statute of limitations. Letitia James is not out of the woods. She will be re-indicted. I predict she'll actually be indicted in multiple jurisdictions.
Beautiful.
She is nowhere near home free. Let's be clear, this decision by Judge Cameron McGowan Curry, the Democrat hack posing as a jurist, never dealt with any of the facts of the cases. They threw these cases out based solely on an incorrect claim that the prosecutor, Lindsay Halligan, was improperly appointed. That ruling, I've talked to several lawyers today, that ruling is just completely wrong. Comey argued, and Judge Curry agreed, that subsection D of the specific law, the government vacancies law, said that her appointment could not be filled. That is just simply incorrect. But if you're a left-wing Democrat judge, you can say whatever you want. The facts, the law, the Constitution, the evidence, the rules, these things don't matter.
I'm excited to announce that we're having a huge sale on overstock and brand new products. For example, My Pillow Percale bed sheets, every color, every style, every size, only $29.88. Our Percale bed sheets are breathable, cool and crisp, and they're perfect for spring and summer. And check out Rev 7, the next generation of energy drinks. It tastes great, and it gives you energy all day with no jitters and no crashes. Best of all, it's actually good for you. And for a limited time, try our 3-pack absolutely free. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save 20% on our Rev 7 12-packs, or try our introductory 3-pack absolutely free. And our Percale bed sheets, all sizes, only $29.88. Twin size, full size, queen size, king sizes, all $29.88. Inventory is extremely limited at this price, so order now.
And I want to make a distinction, Roger, real quick here for the audience. The case was dismissed without prejudice. So that means that the case was dismissed because of a procedural issue, which was the unlawful appointment of the prosecutor, not on the underlying crime. I want to roll that video, Roger, real quickly for the audience of David Schoen with Laura Ingraham.
Some of the procedural stuff here is in question, but you say this was avoidable. How so?
It was avoidable because, quite frankly, the Justice Department should have just put somebody in the room with Lindsay Halligan. It would have taken away all of the arguments for dismissal, quite frankly, based on all the decisions around the country. I still don't think the decision is right, but it was avoidable in that sense. I give Lindsay Halligan great credit, and she showed great courage here. She looked at the facts and the evidence. She saw that there was a wrong committed, and she got an indictment. She was put in this position, and she should have had more support than she was given. But it's not a major setback for the Trump administration or anything like that. It was obviously, it was going to happen. But I think they're wrong in the arguments for a couple of reasons. There's some pretty esteemed scholars, Steve Calabrese, Paul Cassell, who have explained why the courts just have it wrong with this. Professor Calabrese says this section of the law, 546, is unconstitutional. It invades the executive power. And he cites a couple of recent cases that talk about the exclusive executive power, and here to appoint a representative of the executive branch. Cassell says it's constitutional, but that the president has the right to appoint successive interim U.S. attorneys, or in this case, she could act as acting U.S. attorney. We see in the case in California with Bilal Asaili that he continued to go on as first assistant. So again, I give great credit to Ms. Halligan. But the other point I would make here is this. These are public figures. First of all, the hypocrisy of the argument now, given the position these folks took with Jack Smith. But in any event, putting that aside, these are public figures. Why not deal with these cases on the merits? They're going to have to sooner or later because they will be reindicted. And if you read the Ms. James indictment carefully, and of course, everyone's entitled to the presumption of innocence, if you read it carefully, they have her coming and going if they can prove the allegations in the indictment. First, she claimed a secondary home, which means she has to have certain personal use days, 14 days a year. But in her tax schedule, according to the indictment at least, she said 0 personal days in the home. I would ask questions like, did she have an insurance policy? What did she put on her application? Did she make a claim? What was her capacity there? I think that case is going to be a slam dunk, quite frankly.
Yeah, Roger, I couldn't agree with David Schoen more, and I guess we'll see how this case proceeds and how this wraps up. Before we wrap up, I want to get your take real quick. I don't know if you had the chance to see the story. It was in the last few minutes, but Eric Swalwell has filed a lawsuit against Bill Pulte because it turns out Swalwell is having a little bit of a problem. He wants to run for governor, but his house mortgage, Roger, you can't make this shit up. His house mortgage, his primary residence is not in California, as in the state he represents.
Yeah, this is great because as you know, Bill Pulte's lawyers will now be allowed to have Eric Swalwell under oath. A lot of questions we want to ask him about his relationship with Fang Fang, the communist Chinese spy. He penetrated her, and then she penetrated his congressional office when he was a member of the House Intelligence Committee, and he had access to classified information. But right now, he's not eligible to be governor of California because he has no legal residence in the state of California, which is required by state law. Unfortunately, we can't count on state officials in California to stand up for that law. But you cannot call a $1.2 million mansion in Washington, D.C. your principal legal residence and represent the state of California in Congress. It violates California state law. I will say this for Eric, though. His style is changing. Hygienically and stylistically, he's kind of moved more towards the Steve Bannon look, the unwashed, unkempt, toothless hobo look that Steve favors.
Yeah, Bannon, by the way, we're running short on time here, but I got to bring it up. Elon Musk had posted months ago with his little beef with Bannon that he's in the Epstein files. And Roger, as we've seen over the last 2 weeks, he's a lot more in those Epstein files than I would have ever believed. I sent you last night. I was reading. Jeffrey Epstein was asking Steve Bannon how much he should shave his face. And Bannon replies, let's leave a little growth. Some weird ass text messages. And I ask everyone to go read them. Bannon saying we're going to change your image to make it look like these young girls who are preyed on are actually the bad one. I mean, sick stuff, Roger. I think I figured out why Trump has distanced himself from Bannon now.
Well, look, everybody just asked me, they keep asking me because they didn't get much media coverage from the fake news. What's your beef with Bannon? It's very simple. He perjured himself on my trial. He told the House Intelligence Committee he had never discussed WikiLeaks or Julian Assange with me, which was correct. But he showed up as a surprise witness for Robert Mueller, saying the exact opposite. Don't listen to me. Listen to Jonathan Turley, the George Washington University law professor who read both transcripts and said there was a meaningful contradiction between them, reported by the New York Post. So that's my beef. He tried to sell me down the river for 7 to 9 years. Secondarily, he pled guilty in New York State from stealing $15 million from the Build the Wall Foundation. So he was stealing money from little old ladies and small donors who were just trying to do the right thing. But as I said from the beginning, he was in bed with Epstein. He was coaching Epstein on his rehabilitation. He filmed 15 hours or 10 hours of video with Epstein that he has not released. My favorite exchange that I read was when Epstein says to him, "You can use my island or my home in Palm Beach anytime." And Bannon says, brother. "Thanks, brother." Yep. Who calls a convicted sex criminal brother? So Steve Bannon is up to his ass with Jeffrey Epstein, clearly a key advisor with him, telling him that when you're accused of assaulting underage children, just claim that they look young, but they were older than they appeared, which is, of course, a lie.
Yep. And by the way, this was all after Epstein had already pled guilty to 2 felonies of procuring underage girls for prostitution. It was 2 counts, very similar with the charges that he was coaching him with this. Absolutely reprehensible and disgusting. Raj, before we wrap up, I've got to play a short clip for you and get a response to your second favorite person besides Steve Bannon. Take a listen.
Cases granting mercy, discovering that the terrible trauma that everyone's going through. And I had a little bit of a Pritzker joke. I was going to talk about Pritzker and size, but when I talk about Pritzker, I get angry because he's not letting us do the job. So I'm not going to tell my Pritzker joke. They have a very cute little joke, you know. Some speechwriter wrote some joke about his weight, but I would never want to talk about his weight. I don't talk about people being fat. I refuse to talk about the fact that he's a fat slob. I don't mention it. On a more serious note, as we gather around the dinner table, I'd like to lose a few pounds too, by the way.
JB Pritzker, your second favorite person. Roger, you get the last word here.
JB Pritzker, the Bolshevik billionaire. This guy's so fat, he has his own zip code. I mean, I met the guy. I met him on the corner of 31st, 32nd, and 33rd Street. When JB Pritzker sits around the house, trust me, he sits around the house. This guy hasn't seen his own feet in 25 years. But this idea, I know you know this, he has a mansion on the outskirts of Chicago, but he bought the mansion next door so that he could have privacy. And then he tore all of the toilets out of that house, which is vacant, so that he wouldn't have to pay the full property tax on it. He's a disgusting human being. He is going to end up to be found to be legally liable by ordering the Chicago police not to support ICE agents who may be in peril because they're performing their duties. Any of those ICE agents who are injured, and there are some, they will bring a legal action against JB Pritzker, who there's plenty of money to get there, as well as the brain dead mayor of Chicago, Brandon Johnson, a man with a 6% approval rating. JB Pritzker, this guy thinks he's going to be president. Somehow I don't think so.
Yeah, and I don't even think it's his money. I think it's his daddy's money, right? From the Hyatt. It was the Hyatt he worked at, or was it running?
Yeah, I mean, the guy has more chins than a Chinese phone.
Roger Stone, we appreciate you joining us today. In the times of giving thanks, I'm thankful that you're for your friendship, and I'm thankful that you're not sitting in a jail cell right now because Steve Bannon tried to rat and lie on you. So those are the things I'm thankful for, Roger. Good friend, and we always appreciate you having you. Happy Thanksgiving, my friend, and we'll talk to you after the holiday.
Thanks to you, John. And did I introduce you to the single greatest chicken parmesan you've ever had in your entire life?
What's the name of the restaurant?
Zitos in Fort Lauderdale. Zitos, Zitos. Amazing. New spot in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. People should check it out.
And a great owner, those are best chicken parm I've ever had in my life. I've been telling everybody about it. Zito's in Fort Lauderdale, folks. You've got to try it, and you'll probably run into Roger there too. Make sure you go say hello. Roger Stone, have a good weekend, my friend, and happy Thanksgiving.
Many thanks, John. God bless you.
Thanks to Roger Stone, folks, and thank you all for being with us today here on The Great America Show. We hope to see you back here tomorrow. Truth, justice, and the American way. Same time, same place. Yes, we're working tomorrow, folks. It's not Thanksgiving yet, and we may even work on Thanksgiving. It's yet to be told. We'll see what the news covers and which way the wind blows and which way the news blows. But in this industry, folks, there's not many times you can take a day off. It's what it is. We appreciate everyone reaching out, too, about my 90-pound son who has a lot of hair, the golden retriever, Donald. He's on the mend, knocking on wood. He's making a turn, very optimistic. So please keep your prayers up for him. And he makes a full recovery. He's, by the way, he's named after Donald Trump. I bought him after Trump won the election in December of 2016. I bought him. So it's his namesake. So please keep up the prayers, folks. I truly appreciate it. I don't ask you guys for much. This is one thing I really need from you guys. So I really, truly appreciate you guys keeping him in your prayers and keeping us in your prayers and hoping he pulls through. We'll see you back here tomorrow, folks. Truth, justice, and the American way. Until then, I hope and I pray God blesses you, God blesses America, and God blesses the great Lou Dobbs. We'll see you tomorrow, folks. God bless.